Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Type Thursday Book Club. 3 expert designers review a book on typography, design, layout. We read these books individually. We're going to rate them together publicly live stream. You're following along. Hopefully, you read the book yourself. It's very excited to have you all here today. Your 3 hosts today are Thomas, founder of Type Thursday. We have Michael from Type Thursday Phoenix and Matheo from Type Thursday Los Angeles. You guys doing well today?
Excellent. Doing good. Well.
Looking forward to this.
Yes. So before we begin, a couple of reminders. 1, what is Type Thursday? Type Thursday is a meeting place for people who love type. You're working on type, you're using type, you care about type, you come hang out with us. We love type at Type Thursday. So we have physical meetups in cities in like Phoenix and Los Angeles, and when we're not there in person, we're here in the book club where we talk about fonts. So this week we're reading How to Be a Graphic Designer Without Losing Your Soul. It's a practical book on the nitty-gritty of being a practicing designer. And we had some off the rack before we started the recording or the live stream. We already started sharing some notes. I have a feeling this is going to be a very fun conversation. So I hope you all read the book. If you're watching us, be sure to leave your ratings as we disclose them based on our criteria. Because the way the Type Thursday Book Club works is we use a 5 criteria rating system on a 5-star rating point system. Those categories are clarity of concepts, visual inspiration, practical application, and typographic insight. This week, the reading order will be, I believe, myself, Michael, and Matheo. So with that said, gentlemen, shall we get started?
Let's do it.
Let's dive in.
All right. So clarity of concepts is how clearly ideas and arguments are explained in the text. And preface, I had the first edition from, I believe, 2005. So I think I'm curious if I know the other individuals, other members in this group have read other texts. I read the more recent edition, so I don't know if he's updated it. But in terms of clarity of concepts, for me, my rating of it was a 2. The reason why is it's not like he didn't have a good heart when Adrian was writing this text. It wasn't like he didn't have a good sincerity of heart in how he talked about it. I think he's very down to earth. I think he's very practical in his approach of how he's talking about the ethics and how you carry yourself as a designer. But you know what it was? In some cases, I very much appreciate he was like, listen, there's other people talk about these other aspects of it. But when it really came down to the question of like, how do you become a practicing designer without losing your soul? I actually almost feel like everything came down to the closing paragraph, in my opinion, because the closing paragraph was talking about it's really our relationship to fear that stops us from being great designers, right? Fear of clients, fear of judgment. And I remember I just had in my mind the exact same thought from the logos of the last book. Exactly the same thing. I'm like, wait, you close on the thing I think is the most important. Like the most particular thing that the designers need to learn about is how we have courage and deal with fear. That it gets talked about at the end and then that's it. And then all the other things, there's this kind of glaze of generality that I remember reading this book when I just got out of school in 2005, by the way. I got out of school, I graduated in 2004. So this book was like designed for me. It was the perfect book in theory. But I remember reading it and and it's interesting now all these years later, rereading it again. On the clarity of concepts, it kind of fit the note of what I thought then too. It's like great sentiment. I totally agree with it. But in terms of explanation of the points or like how to talk through, at least for me, it kind of left something stunted, except for that last paragraph. I think that last paragraph of the very closing chapter really hit the note on the head. There's some I think there are other things that I think I gave it better rewards on practical application. But in terms of clarity of concept, I did find its general thrust point of like, how do you be a graphic designer without losing your soul? It was surprisingly general than I expected.
Yeah, that's really well said. And that was exactly the kind of the way that I felt about it too, because, I had really wanted to take my career to the next level when I got this book originally during this time. I'm going to rate this at a 4, only because I took these concepts at the time and used them very practically. Because at I'm almost positive at that time no one was talking about this. But you're right, Thomas, in the sense that like nowadays, it's kind of like now the YouTube kind of thing is where you give away like the punch and then you talk about it later. Whereas you're right, it seemed to like lead up to something at the end that was like kind of like the big reveal. But I think it was, it's conversational. It makes a very difficult industry easy to understand at the time. Um, the the ideas were pretty approachable and relatable for what I was doing. And this book was written in the early 2000s. The revision was in 2010, and even things have even changed even more drastically today. So I think this book is relevant. It definitely needs an update. But as far as the clarity of concepts, this was the book that I needed at the time that I read it. And so for that, I'm giving it a 4.
Very nicely said, you guys. Well, we've got some disagreement happening all across the board because I landed at a solid 5. And the reason that I landed at a 5 when reading this book is it came at the perfect time. This is my first read through Adrian, I'm going to say his last name, Shaughnessy, How to Be a Graphic Designer Without Losing Your Soul. And with everything that is happening in the world today, with all the changes that have happened to the design industry, I really feel like it was pertinent to now. And the discussion on the clients, there's a lot of discussion about running your own studio, working with clients. What does that look like? What does that feel like? And, do's and don'ts. And no other book that I've read throughout my career really talked about the nitty gritty. And I've been dealing with this right now with working with a client, working with clients, and working with also coaching other people how to deal with clients either as a solo designer or in a studio sense. And a lot of this it boils down to communication. And I thought Shaughnessy did a great job at taking me through this. And the concepts were clear. They were pretty short. But yeah, I felt like clarity of concepts was the strongest point of this book.
All right, I'm getting some disagreements. I think in general, because like for me, I think the main tension was if the answer is your reputation matters, don't be a dick. Like, I guess, cool. And that's not really where all this tension shows up. The tension is not the question of don't be a dick. Your reputation matters. It's the question of, and he said at a certain point, like there's certain glimmers of it. I think my frustration on this is there's glimmers of really important parts. And I don't disagree, by the way, Matteo, of like, I think I weigh things like practical application of this book. I actually rate this kind of high on that. We'll cut to that rating. Maybe we do reverse on our ratings on that side. Perhaps we'll see. Because I do think he's very practical and he's walking you through these points. But when it really comes down to like, I think general design, and I'm already reading our next book, Ruined by Design by Mike Montero. And I think design ethics is a general area that it's like, it seems like a very clear thing that no one talks about. It's very important we talk about these things, but when we actually ask the question, like, but how do we do ethics? Like, how do we do the right thing? It's actually really, really hard because anything you're going to say a lot of times can be very general and glazed. It's going to be a very particular, generalized point. When most ethical questions are really detailed things of like misunderstandings, violate expectations, misunderstandings, norms, right? These things, and Adrian does make notion of these points, but I for me the area I'm like, but it doesn't. And again, it's a very hard challenge. I think also what Michael's saying too is very fair in terms of like, listen, if you don't have any understanding, especially if you think about this, that you're just out of school and you never dealt with the design studio, you don't know anything about it, and the setups and grammars of how it works, this book is pretty clear about those points. I think that's fair. I think the part I guess what I'm trying to clarify where my energy is coming from on this is that central question of not losing your soul, like to have a relationship. which I think he notes. But the thing is, like that's actually a whole other domain of conversation that this book I find can't get to, because that's about all this such a huge lay of land of points. But I think what you're saying are very fair.
Yeah, I think the Mike Montiero book that we're doing next week is going to go further into that. And it's like, you're right, it's the losing your soul part of it that I think hooks people in, that they think they're going to get some sort of secret sauce about the design industry. But like when I was teaching at Chapman, and I taught a business for graphic designers class, and it was really surprising to me that like no one talks about the business of graphic design. So like I remember this book, and there was there's obviously like the Chris Do stuff that talks about like the business of graphic design, but like even my students hadn't heard of Chris Do. So it's like, and I think it kind of boils down to the question of like, is it possible to succeed in design without compromising something important? And I think that that's like the biggest question out there for people, is like, do you have to, maybe do something for a company that you maybe don't believe in, or, just to get paid? And it's even a bigger question today.
Yeah, Michael, that was a piece that I was also feeling too. Adrian Shaughnessy talks about, the capitalistic approach to graphic design of just like making corporations more money. And that's kind of a sad reality that we all have to face, but then trying to have ethics, and I do agree with your points, Thomas, that he doesn't go too far into depth, and he doesn't really like over explain anything, but I kind of like the shortness and the briefness, because he gives a lot of examples and maybe anecdotes from his career and other people's careers that help provide context and more clarity as he goes. But you're right, there's not a lot of addressing the question how to not lose your soul. I mean, he kind of like talks about the state of design, it's changing, just being a graphic designer, working in like maybe social good, and how that can take forms in different ways. Like he gives the example of a friend's design studio who's making wayfinding signage, and it's helping people navigate through a city, and that's a means of design for good, not for like corporations making more money. And that's just one of many. So there's some interesting talks about, as a designer, sometimes you've got to take the job that just makes and pays your bills. But if you have enough success, then you can pursue things that are maybe more ethically aligned. But to your point, Michael, that you made, if you're fresh out of school, you haven't had success, there's no momentum coming your way, there's no clients coming for to hire you, you've got to take the jobs that you can and get paid where you can. So there's not a lot of options there, right, for say not losing your soul. So yeah, great points all around.
On to the next one.
All right. So visual inspiration. So here's the thing. They have interviews. I think the interviews were very delightful. I enjoyed them. And there is some artwork presented with these designers. Now it's in this like duotone, like cyan, like very 2005 cyan blue with black. That's the edition I had. I don't know if the 2010 changes that vibe. But in general, like, we're not doing this for visual inspiration. And also I do generally, the reading experience is not exactly the best experience. I think it's like, what typeface is it? I think it's Neuhaus Grotesque is it's set in, or I believe something like that. And it's done with this really aggressive indent style. It's not exactly the best reading experience. So if you're going to like, maybe, I think other individuals may put this in the typographic side of a penalty. We've done in the past. But for these reasons, you're not coming for this book for those reasons. You're not coming for visual inspiration of the book itself, besides being an historical object of like 2005 aesthetics. You're going to come in for that, and you can get that no problem. But beyond that, it's not exactly, you're not coming in for visual inspiration. So for those reasons, this is a 1 rating on me. And I see Andrea in the chat saying I'm a hater. Absolutely. Today I'm an old man hater in this one.
To answer your question, they actually say it's typeset in Berthold. Okay. I saw that at the beginning. I was actually impressed by that. Go back here. So for me, the visual inspiration, I'm going to put this at a 3. And the reason why it's right in the middle is at the time that I got this book, actually, it had some visual inspiration for me. It actually had some stills from the Virgin Suicides, which I thought was really amazing. There was actually a Primal Scream album that was popular at the time that I loved the typography on. So I'm kind of on both. It where it doesn't have, you're not coming to this book because it's visually driven. The inspiration comes from more like perspective and honesty and career insight. But the actual imagery that they do use in here are actually very strong, and actually at the time meant a lot to me and really resonated with me. But no, I have to say that visual inspiration, it's not going to be one of those books. We've reviewed other books that are way over the top as far as visual inspiration, but this isn't it. But it does supplement it very well, I believe.
I completely agree with Thomas on this one, and yeah, the book is extremely hard to friggin' read. The way that this thing is typeset, if you compare it to Robert Bringhurst, it's just like, oh man. So I'm landing for visual inspiration on a solid 2. I was gonna land at a 1, but I'm giving it a 2 because the interviews at the end where he's showcasing work from other designers, and it's great work. And they're good examples to get visually inspired by. But as far as typographic layout goes, oh man, this book is a pain in the ass to read. There are so many times where, like, within one line, the length of the paragraph, the measure, is just so long and such a drag. And so my eyes, and my brain were just having a hard time connecting all of the information. And there's a lot, it's walls of text, the whole book is just, this is the whole book. It's walls of text the whole time, all the way through. And it's just that. And like Thomas said, look at that indentation style. It's very funky. It bothered me at first, the indentation style, but then the way he played with the columns and the margins, the notes and the asides, and kind of like it almost felt poetic the way he was using indentation. Then I was like, okay, this is fine. And because of the notes on this side, some of the paragraph lengths measures actually okay to read. So there's a couple paragraphs where I'm like, oh, thank God, like I'm getting like the proper reading length here. But then 80% of the book is just like a long drag and not visual. There's not, and we've joked that previous design books were literally picture books that we get to flip through. This is not that. This is just walls of text that are going to hit you in the face. And so there's not a lot of visual inspiration. Being a design book, it kind of, that's not the topic of this book. So it makes sense, but we're all designers. We're all visual thinkers and learners. It would have been nice to have visual aids to go along with all these stories that he presented. Yeah.
My main issue with this book, it's like, if we bother, why bother? I understand why, by authority to show the images of the work, right, by the designers, and they're great work. I agree. It's that duotone, man. It's killing me. That's not what. None of those designs were meant for that. So it's like the bootleg. Like, listen, it's like the kind of thing a designer on the cheap would do when they're like, listen, I could do a 2-color run. Let's just duotone the son of a gun, and it's like defeating let's contrast that to like house industries where they're going insane with like the metallic inks and like the textured like UV hits treatments on the paper. It's absurd, the production quality of that book. You go to that and you come to this book and you go, what happened? This is like something a senior would have to do in design school to get, because they ran out of budget. They go and do a 2-color run on the job. Not to be a hater, but I guess that's my job today, to be a hater of this book. But that's also why. Like, I think I would have landed on a 2, maybe a 3, like a 2-3, if the production quality of the output, let alone the point of the image assets themselves, are really small. They're not that. They're like almost thumbnail like in their presentation. So again, it's almost like but I can understand the logic of why rhetorically you need to put them in there, because you got to show authority, like why these designers are here, because their work is really good. That's why. I get it. But the presentation and layout of it it's hindering any hope of inspiration visually. Like I know the work's being shown. I remember them, but their color edition. You know what I mean? In my memory, I remember that. But if I didn't have that memory and all I saw was the duotone, maybe I'm thinking that's what it is. It is the duotone edition. But that's not it. That's just a production artifact of this design, deciding to be this aggressive cyan, this like really 2005 cyan, which I did use back when I was in art school. I absolutely in design school used the cyan.
Yeah, and I also think that one thing that needs to be said here is because this book was, it came out in 2004, 2005. That was actually the style of a lot of books at that time. I remember reading books about learning like Flash and other web layouts. That's why it's so close to my heart. But all those books, like I think it was by like New Writers was the publisher, and the books were actually laid out that way because it was a stylistic choice and it was of the time. And I think that that's one thing that maybe we need to be a little bit forgiving for, but looking at it now, it does look dated. It's hard to read, but at the time it was like one of those stylistic choices. But yeah, Stefan Sagmeister, like a lot of his work, I think his book was like laid out very similarly.
Yeah, I mean, Michael, you brought up such a great point. Here's the chapter sections. Notice that if I hold this far away, you just can't read it. The text disappears. Even the cyan text becomes a blur and you can't read it. And then that secondary gray color, you can't read it. In low light, there's a lot of times I'm reading at night. I couldn't friggin' read what was going on here. I had to grab my phone and turn a flashlight on, which that was uncomfortable. The other side though, this is where he uses like an aside and then the paragraph width gets tighter, and that measure is readable, but then the long over lengthy ones were just not. And it made reading this book a drag, to be honest. Like visually it just wasn't inspiring, and then like you hit these pages, these spreads that like, oh, they look fun at first because of the color, but then you get to try to read it and you're just like, wait a second, oh shit, my eyes are failing. So it's just they talk about accessibility in design, and he mentions that in the book a little bit, but especially in print design, like if a book is meant to read, let's make it easy to read. Yeah.
And I have the original book, but I also got the iBook because I wanted to read the extra chapters, and it's actually easier to read. Like, so it doesn't have all those craziness on there. So it's actually easier to read and consume. So, all right, on to the next one.
Moving on to the next one. I know we're just dunking on it. Okay, so practical applications. So obviously, with a caveat, I don't know I mean, I assume probably the second edition has a similar issue, but we got some real artifacts of history here. There was like written letters and postcards were discussed here as legitimate and phone call, like straight up just calling people. I don't know, man. I just find even my friends, I have anxiety calling them. Like in terms of like, it's like there's almost like a social moray of like, do I call them? Do I give them the text first to give them the ping to do the check? Can I call them after? Anyways, like the world's so different on those aspects. So you would think that means I'm going to instantly, as I'm being the resident hater of this text, you think I'd instantly dunk this to a 1, but I will not do that because I think it actually has a lot of timeless practical notes, how to do presentations, how to manage cash flow, how to manage a studio, that still holds up as practical points. The particularities are going to be wildly different. Even when he does caveat, like, listen, I'm not going to go into details of what software to use or this or that, which thank God he didn't do that, because if he did, this book would be obliterated in terms of being irrelevant because things are so different now. But its guidelines and its general outline, I think, is incredibly practical and still very useful. It's going to be a lot, but there's going to be a lot of historical artifacts. You just have to like almost like look beyond to get to the real seeds of the insight about it. So that is skewing the practical application, in my opinion. And I remember this is the 2005 edition that I'm rating right now. For those reasons, I say combined that I'm going to give this. Oh, can I move you? Thank you. we're going for a 3. Solid line, straight line in the middle of 3. I think it's historicism is going to hinder you on some aspects of it, where the nature of getting a job, getting hired, and promotion, or just the world is so different. He doesn't talk about like Instagram does not exist at this time. It does not exist as a mode of like, this is where designers are hanging out, or like where you get your clients from. That's not even in the equation. So I have to knock it down for those points, but its overall themes and outline of how to work with clients, how to manage communications, and just manage your career. I think those points are valid. Those are timeless. And he does talk about that with enough humanity that I think it's worth your time. But I got to be up. But those penalties are going to be painful in terms of like historicism. The phone call one really killed me. I was like, oh my God, this is nuts. It's great. I'm waiting for the facts to show up. I was waiting for that to show up, but it did not. We were not luckily at that time, 2005. Thank God. Okay, that's all for me.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm with you, Thomas. I'm definitely on your side on this one. I don't even know what it's like now to even work with. I've been out of kind of like working in a studio environment, like in-house for a long time. So so I'm not even clear as to what it is. I've been more of a solopreneur for a long time. And then getting into teaching is a whole different realm as well. I'm going to put this at a 4 only because I feel like it definitely gives real world value still. I think that the advice around clients and positioning, the creative integrity, and it's all applicable. And especially, if you're a freelancer or independent, I think that is still super relevant. But you're right. It's like, I was joking with someone recently that, we shouldn't even call like our iPhones phones because we don't use them for like talking on it anymore. It's probably the last thing we do. It's more like a multimedia device, and even multimedia, even that's a dated word. But I feel like this still has like practical applications for, how do you get in and how do you talk to people? How do you do presentations? What does it take to be a designer? And I feel like this does have that value. So I'm going to put it at a 4, but yeah, I could have easily gone lower, but I'm going to put it at a 4.
Excellent. Let me jump in with mine here. Trying to look at my notes. Okay. On practical application, I'm strongly aligned with Thomas on this one. I don't see a lot of like step-by-step guides or workshop tools, things to follow along with, like we saw in Martina Floor's Golden Secrets of Lettering. I thought that was great. I thought the lettering manual by Ken Barber was very practical. And Elements of Typographic Style by Robert Bringhurst, Concepts to Apply to Your Life. Even 7 Habits had a lot of practical application and how to apply things. But with Adrian Shaughnessy's book, I just felt like this is the area where I wanted more, definitely, as far as like the topics that they're covering. It could go and give us more examples that you can apply to the real world. And I do think I'm landing at a 3, right? Because like Thomas said, he covers, running a design studio, dealing with money, dealing with clients, dealing with presentations, how to be a good presenter, and going beyond just being a good designer, right? And it's because it kind of takes you through a lot of like, hey, being a designer nowadays in the real world practice, here's how you're going to stand out. And that's why I landed at a solid 3.
Okay, so general sentiment, basically in agreement, right? I don't think we have that much contention in terms of good heart, but there are particular like the datedness of some of its notes. And then, by the way, the chat's having a great time talking about this text versus phone call question. I was about to read a comment. I was about to put a reply in there, by the way, of I think you guys remember that meme where it's like someone sending a message like, are you emotionally available for this conversation? In terms of can I call you? We have to like, it is interesting, the generational gap sometimes in terms of who feels comfortable with phone calls versus texts. versus I don't know what other people do. I don't know what I don't know. I don't. It's just an interesting kind of counterplay of different generations. Oh, FaceTimes. I don't know. I mean, could you guys imagine? I don't know your clients. Could you imagine FaceTiming your clients? I actually had a client do that to me. Like they FaceTime me. I was actively nervous. I was like, "What is happening? I don't understand." And then I got to do the thing where like now you're up like because I can't do the full. I can't do the boomer low phone move, right? Where the camera's like your face is like disgusting. So now you got to do the millennial thing. You got to raise it up, and now I got to because it was a lot of anxiety on those times.
Oh my god!
Why do you think I have a studio setup? I don't want to look like an old man.
Michael, great reason to have a studio setup. Excellent.
Awesome.
Okay, we're just moving on. No other thoughts? That's fine. I'm going to be very fast about this because, you know, the information is nothing typographic based. So there's no content about type. You're not coming this for type, not directly. Even in terms of Rudy Vanderleest from Emigre is featured. So there is some insights that is typographic based. You get some interesting knowledge for insights of like Rudy was trained by Harriet Norzai, whom we're reading his text, The Stroke, in a couple of weeks. So there's some interesting details about that. But for me, when we combine that little only that slight glimmer of typographic insight about Rudy Vanderleest and Emigre, which is very important for design typographic history in the 2000s, in the 90s especially, and a little bit 2000s too. They kept going in 2008, I think, if I remember correctly. But besides that, the everything Matteo said before that was penalizing, he penalized in typographic inspiration, in visual inspiration. I put this down here because that's what we did last time with designer everyday things. That's what we really penalized Don Norman on was this. So for that reason, could plunk it with a 1 for me. That's what I got.
Yeah, I don't know how many ones I have, but I'm right with you. It's not going to give you. It doesn't have a direct focus on typography, and but weirdly they did put a lot of effort into making the typography the way that they did, and so there was a lot of effort there. But you're right. It's a book about the life of a designer and very not about the mechanics of design itself. So for that reason, I have to give it a 1. And again, I still have to give it the caveat that it was of the time, and there was so many books that I read were very similar, and I didn't think anything of it. But now looking back on it, it is dated.
And guys, I'm not going to have any slow or holdbacks here. I'm just going to jump right in and let you know.
Heck yeah. Let's all be haters. Yes. We're all haters. Let's go.
I didn't mean to hate because I really loved this book. Like I want everyone to know that I loved the book. I loved Adrian's voice and tone, and yes, but typographically, after reading Bringhurst and seeing as much typographic insight that has been given to us in the design industry by other design books, as well as typesetting, right? Just like making the book readable and digestible for your audience, like going with such a long line measure and a sans serif basically made it impossible to read along in an easy, enjoyable way. It was just kind of like mentally taxing. So if we chose a serif font, if we chose better paragraph lengths, then I think this book could have been improved had we worked in more visuals, right? But also on the rubric point of typographic insight, there was just really no jumping into exploring typography. I think I highlighted one section that he calls out some designers talking about user interface design and the expansion of digital design and how typography has this new world to be expanded into, but he doesn't show what that looks like. There's no visual examples to go with it, and then there's no further explanation of that. So just really felt lacking on typographic insight. So you're not coming to this book for that. I really think you're coming to this book for practical advice on your navigating your career, and especially if you need help navigating maybe relationships with clients and running a studio or growing your business as a designer, and you feel a little bit lost. I think that this is going to help you in those areas. Presenting, I think it's going to help you in that area. But yeah, typographic insight, no.
You know what's funny? Because we read Mueller Brockman's Grids and Graphic Design. That was an easier reading experience in this text. Do you gentlemen agree with me on that point?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, because it's like the choice of the type of the sans serif, but it's also the relationship of the measure, the leading, like all these interconnected aspects to it. That, yeah, I read, Brockman's text with almost no problem, right? Like it was a little odd reading a grotesque sans serif like that, but it was fine. You can make it work. I tell my students that too. You can make a grotesque sans serif work in typesetting, make it enjoyable to read, but you cannot do unleash the hate. I see the comments. Everybody's enjoying the hate. Yeah, let's go. Because it's a lesson. Because like you can't use something like Bertha, like burden, like you're talking about, like grotesque sans serif like that, and then put a ridiculously long measure, hugely loose leading, and the weight of it, by the way, is actually kind of light. It's actually a relatively light weight. I don't think it's a regular weight. I think it's actually almost like the book weight, if not a little lighter in that direction, typographic weight. And then with a ridiculous indent, ridiculous leading, and a really long ass measure. Like this is not exactly an easy reading experience. But it's weird. It's almost like the measure. Actually, now my memory's fading about this. But anyways, yeah. And so again, it was more us dunking the typesetting in terms of like, yeah, definitely of the time. I definitely agree. But so that's why it's like almost like the one caveat is if you want to get an inspiration, what does 2005 typesetting look like? Typographic culture look like? That's that. I don't disagree with Michael. There's a lot of texts that were typeset like this, so it's not like that unusual in the context. But it's also, to be fair, a lot of typesetting in 1970s was really, really bad. By the way, it's the same issue. Like to get the modernist shtick going is super hard. And by the way, actually, some historical context. I think. Oh God, the Helvetica documentary came out then. So it was a super love affair of this neo-modernism, basically at that time. A very particular early 2000 edition of it. Because I think the Helvetica documentary came out. That was a huge deal. Everyone getting like the jet set, experimental jet set, like that kind of a vibe aesthetic was coming through. And some people could do, the masters did it really well, but anybody, which Mueller Brockman, by the way, was back in the 70s. And 60s, but anyone that was not the master could not do it as well. And this text is a little dicey on that one. Okay, I'm done ranting. I'm done hating.
Well, and something else that I just noticed that I didn't think about before is every paragraph is also with justified as well. And so like that.
Yes.
So it's conformity, but it also breaks it because all the paragraphs are different sizes. They're different positions, making the reader really, really work to read this as well. So that's why the ebook was actually an easier read, and I actually digested it a lot easier.
Yeah, that's funny, Michael, because you're right. The ebook, you can, from when I was using, I think Amazon Kindle's app, it'll let you pick a serif, pick like a background color, and I would go to beige, so it wasn't burning my eyes out, and then pick your font size and then your justification. So like as a designer, I was like, oh, I love this. I get to like redesign my little books and then just like make it easy to read. But in the physical text, having that justified paragraph, and it's forcing some of the words to squish together really tight. So your tracking is a mess in a lot of these different paragraphs throughout the entire book. And I'm just like, and Thomas, I think your point about like, it's a lighter font that just is harder for the eyes to just, sit with. So yeah, this was a tough one to read.
Listen, you get a bunch of it's Type Thursday. You got typographically informed designers. I don't know what to tell you. Sorry, we're going to bring the hate in terms of the chat comments about this. Okay, shall we move on? Because it's a great text. Like, no, as you can tell, there's some generally strong ratings on some points about this text by some members in this group. But in this typographic insight, we all beat it up pretty bad. Okay, so let's close out with the overall impact. Okay. So listen, I think texts about design ethics or the kind of all the aspects of the totality of the human designer and all the aspects of it are really rare. These texts are really hard. So I really appreciate that it even exists. I think it's at the foundation for things like Mike Montero to produce his texts. I think in 2010, I think his came out, if I remember correctly, 2015, I think. So for those reasons, I think it's very important. Now, the problem is the visual inspiration, it's kind of definitely not there. Typographic insight, it's not there. It does get for me some push up because of the practical application. I gave it a 3. And I think it's clarity of concepts. I think there were some good points about, but I think it was really missing what designers need. I think it's a great foundation text that needs a, like, I would give it to someone, but I would have to immediately give them a bunch of other texts to support this, to kind of flesh out what's being done here. So for those reasons, it's not like my go-to definitive, like this is the text to read to get your design ethics, because there's just the time, the historicism of like being locked in a certain time is hindering too much for that. And when it does have those eternal points, those points that are more ahistorical and more, they still stand today. They're not, from my judgment, they're not clear enough to pierce through what is the question of being an ethical designer. Because there is an issue with, here's the thing, in my opinion, there's a difference between, I think there are two aspects of design ethics. One aspect is the question of whom will you work for? What kind of work will you be okay doing, consenting to do? But then there's also just, how do you carry yourself as a human being in terms of how do you relate to your clients, to your stakeholders, to your peers, to your history, to your tradition. So that's a much more nuanced point that, again, this text hints at very glimmers about it, but it doesn't get you the real meat of the question. I think, besides just the existential crisis, everyone's like, what is design? AI is obliterating us. Oh no. Like beyond that, it's just there needs to be a text to talk about these questions of the ethics of what does it mean to be a designer, not just in whom we work for and why we do so, but how do we relate to ourselves, to our community, to our clients, and to as human beings. I think that's a question I have in my mind a lot. So for those reasons, I give it a 2 in terms of its overall impact. Great starting point, but we need a lot more now.
Yeah. I'm just I'm right in the middle on this one. I'm going to put this right here at a 3. I think for many designers, especially early in their career, mid-career, this is definitely a validating book. And for me at the time, it was fantastic. I think that the one thing about just the design industry is like it's moved so quickly and nothing seems to stick, but it's like, I think just having these voices out there, and I feel like I've become one of those voices. In fact, on Monday, I'm talking 2-3 times about the AI in design, and you would be surprised about how many people don't have like practical experience to put AI against. And one of the points I'm going to bring up is that, like, I remember hearing the same things about AI that I heard about Photoshop, that I heard about, film and cameras and just everything that we were doing. It was a lot of the same concerns. And, was it, not cheating, but is it, it's cutting corners or, you can manipulate different things. So I feel like just even having these conversations is relevant. I think this, where I don't know how this book could even keep up. They could come out with one every single year. So the overall impact, I feel, is like it's right in the middle, only because I just don't feel like it keep up with relevant things of today. But I still think it's a relevant book out there, and it's not a craft book, but it's a a reality check as far as like what does it take to be a designer, and how do you keep yourself and your morals and everything intact on the way up there. So again, you're right. It only touches on these things, but I think it's a bigger conversation.
You guys made some great points here, and I'm disputing you. I'm disputing you both because I did not land at a 5, but I did land at a solid 4 for overall impact. Where do I put myself here? And the reason that I landed at 4, let me get my cursor out of there, is because Adrian Shaughnessy actually, I thought, did a great job at exploring the design industry and how it's evolving over time. And I should say I have the 2010 edition, and so it's a little bit more updated than the 2005 edition that was first published. But it is a decade old, so there's some aging you feel in reading this. But there's some things that are timeless, and that's why I landed at a 4, because I think he's talking about concepts that still make sense to this day. One, he references who uses freelance designers. So if you're early, like Michael said, if you're early or you're mid-career and you're wondering these questions about how to put yourself out there, who's going to hire you, and where you can get work, this book is for you. I think, and the principles that there are shared are timeless, and it's create what do they say, creative reasons, personal reasons, financial reasons, and like the people who you want to reach out to who might be hiring. He calls that out. If you're starting a studio, he talks about you need 3 partners. You need someone with creative direction, someone with financial skills, and someone with the production and ITs and project management skills. So, and I like the way that Adrian summarizes some of these things about our field that nobody in my career that I had seen or read had done. Like nobody had written about these things. And Adrian gives you this like insider scoop if you that you would have learned if you had a great mentor. But like me, I didn't have just too much mentorship fresh out of school, and I wasn't pulled in by someone who was at a great agency who taught me the way. So I felt like this book is helping do that, and gives you some other great examples about pricing. But in particular, I highlighted this excerpt here that I really want. Oh, yeah, this too. Like, here's a list of what needs to be done as running a studio, and this is for everybody. It's 8 different things, and it's broken down where it's like, yeah, this is everything to the end of the day, even if it's AI involved. So I think that's timeless. But there was one little excerpt I wanted to read for you guys. There it is. And basically, it touches on what's happening today with AI. And even though AI didn't hit the market at this time, the design industry was changing. And he says, at a time when anyone can be a graphic designer, designers are being forced to ask themselves 2 fundamental questions. What is our role in modern culture? And what is graphic design in the age of screen-based communications? Now, let's swap screen-based communications with fucking AI, and you're asking yourself the same damn question. Everyone can be a designer now because of the damn tools in the market, Canva and whatever else is coming out, and you can prompt to design. But I think what's happening is designers are becoming directors, art directors, creative directors, taste makers, people who have a sense of what is good and what works and what really engages people on the other end. Because anyone who's used AI or put it to work, they're all kind of reaching the same issue, is that it's not actually engaging the same way that they thought that it's been promising to. And so people are coming back to hire other people, other designers, and being like, hey, I designed this with AI, take my AI design, and can you make it better and make it actually engage? I think, Michael, you shared a story on one of our episodes just like that. And I keep hearing more stories just like that. I've had friends come to me with problems just like that. So for me, overall impact is there. I hope maybe there's an updated edition, but with the edition that we have now, it still has relevance.
Yeah. It's interesting how we weight it. Like basically, the historicism aspect is definitely a weighting aspect, right? So it's actually, I think Michael's kind of on the line in the middle, kind of hits the note, balancing both points from me and Matheo.
I really wanted this, especially the updated edition. I was hoping, I thought there was a 3rd edition, but I might be wrong on that one. But I definitely hope that this keeps on going as a series, and they keep on talking to people, because again, all this technology is changing. I think that we all, I don't know, it's weird. I feel like there's more graphic designers than there ever has been. But I used to say this a long time ago as well. I go, anybody with a laptop in Photoshop says they're a graphic designer, so it's like, so what truly does make a designer a designer? Is it so many years? Is it the talent? Is it I think it's kind of that's a bigger question that I think that we will be answering in the future on future episodes.
Yes, big, exciting, big. It's a brave new world. Yes, but we think in general, it's a big issue of just like businesses just change so much. So it's not even just like a design problem. It's just the nature of business, and that's the issue. So a lot of this book is about the business side, and I agree with Matteo that some of those intersections are really important because you're only going to learn them from mentors. If you don't have that, you're host, right? And this book is a good substitute for that. But that's part of the reason why I knocked it down, because just not even designs changed, businesses changed. Just straight up the value proposition, how value is extracted. Like you want to go down that route, the capitalistic angle, like venture capital, speculation has run rampant. Like I'm trying to think. I don't think I would be curious if the 2010 edition talks about this, but like startup culture. I mean, that basically that was like the engine of the design industry for so long. Almost all my colleagues were hired by startups or unicorns, basically corporations, and that was basically how we did our work. That's like that mode of working. But I don't think that's the case anymore.
No.
So you see, like an entire orientation of like how our industry is oriented has changed just for that fact. I think it started it was the post iPhone era, right? 2000, I think, yeah, because it was around 2007, iPhone came out in the App Store. So that whole genealogy of economic context for design has developed, came about, and went away. So interesting. So it's just, I think that's why my skewing got moved down, because it's not even just a critique of his discussion about design. That's the issue. It's just that it's a discussion of business. It's just so different now than the 2010 or the actually 25 edition I had, especially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on to the wheel.
Shall we move on to the wheel?
Let's do it. Give me a second here.
Wheel of
And as
Fortune.
we're transitioning, guys, what's your ratings? I don't know if you guys read the book, but the chat, if you guys read the book, we want to know. Do you agree with us? We've been coming with some serious hate. Who knows? Do you enjoy that 2005 aesthetic of the typography, that neo-modernism? If you let us know.
Also, like and subscribe. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Helps us out a ton and costs you none.
And by the way, the chat has been on fire. We have a great chat.
Yeah,
it's been great conversations. We'll share some of the comments later.
Okay, we got this wheel.
Here we go.
Spin wheel. Let's see what we get this time.
We got the book one.
Do you want to do it again, or do you want to do it for it?
We always
do
get
it again. We've gotten too many of these in a row.
We get that so often. There was one word.
I've got like 3 times.
I guess soul. I don't know. Okay, here we go.
Oh, nice.
Oh.
Okay. I hate this book. So obviously, I think Brockman would hate it.
Yeah.
I don't know why, because we were just talking about like typography layout, and Brockman's book was so much better.
Yeah.
Typeset. So that was instantly my first thought. But you guys, what are your thoughts?
Well, I wish we would have got this last week. That would have been a great one for Michael Stinson about the typography one. Yeah. I'm gonna go with Milton Glaser, who often spoke about ethics, maintaining humanity in his creative work. I think that's a good one. That's one that came straight to my mind. Matteo, did you have anybody that you had in mind?
I was thinking Robert Bringhurst would absolutely hate this book because the proportions are not within the golden ratio. This is not a mathematical, well proportioned book. I mean, it holds nice in your hands, but when you look at the paragraphs of text and it's just that the whole entire time, and Robert Bringhurst would be like, go pick up my book and look at my rules on justification and spacing and fixing all of those cramped spacing. Because if I should, at one point I was almost thinking to take a photo of like where these letters are literally crashing into each other because of the justification, the way the rules that were set up here for the typesetting this book. I personally liked the after I got into it, the indentation style, because at first I did not like that at all, but Thomas, you called that wacky indentation style out, but later on I got into a rhythm with it and I was like, okay, I can see why he's doing this now. But yeah, I think Bringhurst would just like tear this apart as far as typographic.
The Mill and Glazer thing, Mike, you brought up. Yeah, I think it was it he wrote like a list of 10, like an ethical list of 10. I think it was in Print Magazine. Is that ringing a bell for you, Michael?
It is, and I let me look that up because that does. See.
That's hilarious, and my memory remembers that.
I know you have
like,
you have some great memories about all this.
It's nuts. Yeah. I guess it was like an increasing scale, like 10 questions, each one more morally dubious in terms of its ethical implications. Like things like, would you work? I think, would you work for a tobacco company? Like that was absolutely one of them. I think another one was like, would you purposely, like a wine company that was like brand new, would you purposely make the branding look old to make it look like a legacy organization, like a legacy winery or something?
Is it the 10 rules for life and work?
Or maybe, yeah,
something like that. Yeah,
it was a.
That's interesting. I wonder what this book would look like redesigned. Like we have that redesign one chapter. I think we should redesign the whole thing. And
oh, that'd be a fun challenge. I would because I don't disagree with you, Matteo, on that indentation having a rhythm. I don't disagree with that. It's so intentional. It's so extreme indentation that it creates a rhythm.
Yeah. It is extreme.
I like that challenge.
Yeah. I think the
I mean, if we're gonna come with that much hate, we might as well back up what we're talking about.
I also want to define that it isn't hate, and it's literally like just criticism about kind of how we see it, and it's like it get turned into like it's a bad thing, and it's like it's just a thing. I think that it's funny, like the word hate. There we go. What do you got here?
A good example page of the indentation at large of like what we're talking about. Like if you just look at the indents on those paragraphs, and you can already see right away there's like a weird, negative space happening. But like you get into a rhythm now. If the measure was shorter, that would help a ton with like readability and just be able to like let you sort of your eyes dance through the pages, like Bringhurst's book. But yeah, and Michael, I think maybe we add that. Like, how would you redesign this book or something like that? That could be a fun prompt.
I love it.
What would Bringhurst say about that? Could also be a prompt.
Yes, I like that.
What would Bringhurst do? Yes.
Yeah.
WBD.
Oh, there you go. WBD.
With that said, reminder everybody, this is season 1 of the Type Thursday Book Club. It's been a really fun time this week, as I expected it was going to be. We have Mike Montero's Ruined by Design. That's next week, next Thursday. The following week, we do have Type Thursday. So we are off from our book club, but we are in person in Phoenix and Los Angeles. And then we're at the end stretch of the season, everybody. We got 3 more books after that. And then that's it. We're done with the first season. And it's been a really fun process so far. But with that said, obviously, keep in touch. The chat's on fire. We're having great banter in the chat. Join the book club. Like and subscribe on YouTube at Type Thursday Global. You can be part of us and pick up the book and hang out with everybody. With that said, obviously, save the date. Because, Matteo, you want to talk about Type Thursday Los Angeles? What's going on there?
Yeah. At Type Thursday Los Angeles, 3 presenters get to show their work, and you, as an audience member, get to give your feedback, ideas, critiques, suggestions, bring them all. As well as you get to meet friends. There's pizza, there's food, snacks, drinks. It's going to be a blast. This time, we have not announced the venue just yet, so we're going to announce that soon. Stay tuned. And you can follow us on Instagram at Type Thursday LA, and both Type Thursday LA and Phoenix happening May 28th. And we both are looking for volunteers. So if you want to be a part of the community and you want to make new friends and you want to apply and do some real world work that can help you in your career, volunteer. Message us on Instagram. Michael?
Yeah. By the way, may I say, I am very jealous of this poster. It's so good.
For fun.
So good.
Aw.
Yes, we are also on May 28th. We're back at Dialogue in 2 weeks. And we have some great speakers, Shireen, Nicole, and Marco. We are looking very forward to being at Dialogue. We are on Instagram at Type Thursday PHX. Please join us. I was at the last Type Thursday LA, and I had a great time. If you're in the LA area, anywhere, please make it a point to go down there and meet some great people.
Yeah. The
Gentlemen,
team
it
designed
was a
this
great
one.
time. It's gonna be a great Type Thursday in 2 weeks. So obviously, if you're in Phoenix or in Los Angeles, and you're looking to connect with people who love type. If you love the banter and the conversation you got here at the book club, now imagine that in person with work in progress projects, right? Working on letter forms in use, making, or talking about them. So that's our Type Thursday events. This has been the Type Thursday Book Club. It's been super fun. We'll see you all next week. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.